Yo, what's going on, Dragon Ballers? Welcome back to another video. Today will be our first video going over Anniversary Box 2022 reveals. Now, I'll just be honest, I absolutely hate the method in which they've been revealing these cards because there's no real rhyme or reason to them. They're not doing it by color, they're not doing it by archetype, which I guess if they did by archetype, it'd be way too short of a card pool. But yeah, there's just no rhyme or reason to this, so I'm just going over the first 10 or 9 cards that they've shown here, and we'll talk about them. Obviously, I can't in good faith say I've tested every single one of these cards. That would just be me playing Dragon Ball 24/7. I have a real job. I wish I could do content full time, but yeah, I'm gonna go over these and use the best recollection that I have with these different strategies and give my opinion on them. So we'll see if Anniversary Box is actually gonna bring your favorite old decks back into the meta. That being said, though, if you're new here, make sure to subscribe, hit that bell so you never miss a video. And if you guys want to help support the channel, there are tons of ways to do so down in the description. But today, guys, if you want to buy or pre-order any cards we talk about in today's video, or any trading cards for that matter, it really does help me out if you use my link in the description to TCG Player. I really do appreciate it, guys. Anyways, let's jump right into this, talking about a card that I'm pretty excited about, actually. That is Gohan in Earth's Defense. This is support for the yellow skillless Whis archetype, which if you guys remember from several months ago, I did a video kind of doing a deck profile theory for some ways that it could maybe be played in a more modern format. So let's see how this card adds to that. So it's a 1-drop 4K with deflect, auto limit 1. If your leader is a yellow Whis card and you place 1 card from your hand at the bottom of your deck, when this card is played, send up to 2 skillless battle cards with 15k power and different character names from your deck to your warp, shuffle your deck, and then at the end of your opponent's next turn, play up to one of the cards sent to your warp by the skill in your battle area, and you may add the remaining cards to your hand. So it's a bit of a delayed effect, but still not a bad turn 1 play, because you get to play a 15k body as well as add one to your hand, which, if you don't know, the yellow Whis leader, the whole gimmick is comboing skillless battle cards on your opponent's turn to then play them. That's not bad. Did this thing have to bottom deck a card from your hand? Probably not, but I mean, I guess it's still technically a +1 or +2 depending on how you look at it, so not a bad trade-off there. That's a pretty solid effect with deflect as well. I do appreciate that. Activating once per turn, choose one of your leaders and it gains the following skill until the end of your opponent's next turn. Permanent. Your skillless battle cards gain barrier. Now, someone pointed out that, which I find really funny, is that this gives the effect to your leader, right? All your skillless battle cards gain barrier. Well, if they gain the skill barrier, they're no longer skillless battle cards. So then does the permanent stop applying, and then since they're now skillless again, does it reapply? You could technically, if you really want to get down to semantics, you could get to this endless loop of the effect applying and then not applying to your skillless battle cards because they gain and then just lose the effect in a cycle. It's not really that serious. Obviously, it's meant to just give your skillless battle cards barrier and just leave it at that, but it's really funny. But anyways, this seems like a solid card for the Whis archetype. The one weird thing about the Whis archetype is that you want to combo your skillless battle cards and then play them, but the whole thing with comboing now is charging Z energy, albeit yellow doesn't need a ton of Z energy to operate, so that's okay if you don't have that. But yeah, I mean, this will be a card you can definitely combo after you've given its usage, but I guess you also want to keep it on the board so you can give your leader the ability of keeping your skillless battle cards a barrier. But this guy himself does not have barrier, so it's going to be kind of hard to justify leaving him on the board when he can easily get removed by whatever deck your opponent's playing. So you probably want to combo him, but he is a nice little plus. I think it's pretty solid for the Whis deck. Is it going to bring the Whis deck into the meta? Probably not, but it is a really cool tool for the deck. Then we have Dispo Hyperspeed Strike. This card is very interesting from a meta perspective. We have a 4-drop 20k barrier permanent. If this card's in rest mode, your opponent can't attack your unisons with specified costs of 2. So right off the rip, this is meant to be for the Topo deck, and the Topo deck is all about 2-cost unisons. And the one that it came with, which is honestly one of the best meta unisons, is Vegeta Unison of Fury. And we all know how good that card is against the various red decks with these huge boss monsters. And this card protects that, which is already interesting in the context of the meta. Auto when this card switch to rest mode by one of your skills, switch it to active mode, and then choose one of your opponent's battle cards with energy cost of 5 or less in rest mode and KO it. Activate main, limit 1 for 2 yellow. If your leader's a yellow Topo card, you have a unison with a specified cost of 2 in play. Draw 1 and play this card from your hand. So I believe the leader's an untapped 2, so you can play your unison, awaken, and then immediately play this barrier threat that's going to protect your unison, which is very cool. I honestly think this could make Topo a really cool rogue control deck, because there are lots of decks right now that spam battle cards. So if you can set up your unison that prevents your opponent from attacking with huge guys, and then set up this guy who's then going to protect your unison while also just being a solid threat with removal and draw and all that good stuff, that could make Topo a pretty interesting rogue deck. So definitely keep an eye on that one. Then we have SS3 Gotenks Invisible Fists. I've been waiting a long time for yellow Gotenks to get something that will make it playable. Let's see if this is the card. We have an 8-drop, 30k, Deflect, Triple Strike, Union Fusion for 3 with a Goten GT and a Trunks GT. Permanent, if your leader is a yellow Gotenks Adolescent card, you can choose battle cards in your drop when choosing cards to use with this card's Union skill from your hand. If you do, place chosen cards at the bottom of your deck in any order. That's really nice because you don't actually have to minus from your hand, but you do have to somehow find a way to get those Goten and Trunks fluidly into your drop area. If I'm not mistaken, there's like some number of Goten and Trunks GTs that like pitch to search other ones. I could be getting that wrong, but I think that's what some of them do. So if that's the case, then that's actually really good for this because you can just pitch those, search the other copies, and then you can fuse without costing anything from your hand. And then auto, when this card's played, draw 1, choose one of your opponent's battle cards ignoring barrier, negate skills for the turn, switch it to rest mode, then choose up 2 of your opponent's battle cards in rest mode and KO them. Okay, so being an 8-drop deflect means this is safe from virtually all counterplays, and that auto almost removes like anything in the game, like ignore barrier, negate skills, so that gets around like barrier itself obviously, and anything like indestructible, and then switches the target to rest mode, so you can have some annoying barrier battle card in active mode, and then just choose anything including the card you just negated the skills of, and then KO them. Like, this card is super solid. I guess it doesn't only have to be played in yellow Gotenks, but like you're probably not going to play the Trunks and Gotens in other decks. So will this single-handedly make yellow Gotenks playable? That leader is very handicapped by the amount it's able to draw, which is unfortunately very little. You're reliant on your opponent using extra cards to draw more cards, which is just like somewhat easy to play around, and most decks don't really like require the use of extra cards. They have really good ones, don't get me wrong, but like you can play around that leader by just not using your extra cards that you don't really rely on. So yeah, this one card alone might not do it, but who knows? Will be really interesting to look at for sure. All right, then we have a Black Broly Z leader. Now this is a card that I never thought we'd get because like this Black Broly leader is so bad and it came out so long ago, but I wanted to read the old leader first just to get some context for the new leader. So we have Broly. When this card attacks a leader card, you may choose one card in your life and place it in your drop area. If you do so, place up 3 cards on top of your deck in your drop area, then your opponent chooses a card in their hand and places it in the drop area. Funnily enough, I'm pretty sure it's going to proc things like Deborah that are anti-hand control, so that's not that great there. But I guess you're swinging Self-Awakening and making your opponent pitch a card, so it's like the inverse of drawing a card. Awakening relates 4 or less, draw 2 and flip over. Broly Legends Dawning, when this card attacks, draw 1 card, and then you may choose one of your non-token, non-black battle cards and place it in your drop area. If you do, your opponent chooses a card in their hand and places it in the drop. So for that, we'll be looking for any ways we can free play non-black battle cards, which obviously is, or honestly is pretty slim. So that might be tough to build there, but activate main once per turn, choose 1 card in your hand and place it in the drop, then choose one of your opponent's battle cards and KO it. So, you know, meh. Let's see what the Z leader does. Z Awaken, a 30k Z leader for 2 Z energy. SS3 Broly Surpassing Legend, double strike Z Awaken for 2 if your life's 4 or less and it's your turn. So you can only do it on your turn. You cannot do this defensively. Auto, discard 2 cards from your hand when this card is placed in your leader area. Play it to 1 SS3 Broly from your drop, ignoring its permanent skill. We'll read that card in a second. Auto, at the start of your opponent's main phase, remove this card from the game, so you go back to your 15k leader. Activate main once per turn, place 1 non-black card from your battle area in the owner's drop area, then choose up to one of your opponent's battle cards and send it to the owner's warp, and your opponent sends 1 card from their warp, or from their hand to their warp. So you'd ideally want to Z Awaken into this on a swing that's not negated, so you can get in there for pretty big, like 30k double strike damage. That's pretty cool. You get the ability to play a guy even during that battle from the looks of it, because it's just like if you Z Awaken during battle, you can still meet that first auto. So that's not bad. Again, is this leader going to make this old leader like any good? Probably not, but let's just take a look at what the S3 Broly Saiyan Berserker does real quick. We have an 8-drop 35k permanent. If you have any non-green cards in areas, you ignore that permanent. It's just a restriction that doesn't matter. Activate main for 4. Choose 1 Broly's ring in your battle area and place it in the owner's drop. Then play this card from your hand. Don't need to do that because the leader plays it for free. Auto, when this card, when you play this card, choose 1 green Broly in your hand with an energy cost of 7 and play it. So I think it's like a set 1 or 2 Broly. That's just a 6-drop. You just play it. Your opponent pitches 2 cards. So that's a neat little combo there, I guess. And then when this card's placed in your drop from your hand by a skill, if your leader's a Broly card, choose 1 Broly's ring from your deck, activate it, then shuffle your deck. If you do, choose 1 or 2 cards in your life and add them to your hand. I don't foresee you using that effect very much. But I guess you can free play this, then free play the other Broly that makes them pitch 2 cards, and then you can maybe use the green SS3 Broly SCR. kind of neat, but again, like, I don't see it being all that good. But I guess the activate main here is like a really good way to proc your own SS3 Broly SCR. So maybe this is just gonna be a black-green deck that kind of revolves around that combo. That could be kind of neat, I guess. Alright, then we have SS Goku for the mission. A lot of people are looking forward to this one. So we have a 2-drop 15k Z battle card for 1 Z energy. Critical, auto, burst 3. If your leader is a Black Sun Goku Xeno only card, which I think there's only one of in the game, the SS4 Goku leader, but I could be mistaken. And you place 1 card from your hand to the bottom of your deck. When this card's played, add up to 1 black unison with no specified cost and 10,000 power or less from your deck to your hand. Then shuffle your deck, which is obviously probably going to be Demigod Momentary Ally. We'll give that a read in a second. Activate main once per turn for every 7 black battle cards in your warp. This card gets plus 5k for the turn. So he could be anywhere from like a 20 to 25k critical swing, but I think you really just care about getting the unison out of the deck, which adds some consistency, which is kind of nice. So Momentary Ally, auto once per turn, burst 1. If your leader is a Black Sand only or God only card, when you play a battle card using Overwhelm, this card gains Wormhole for the turn, so you get the ability to Overwhelm twice per turn. Activate main +1, place up 2 black battle cards from your warp back into your drop, and then -3, add up 2 battle cards with energy cost of 7 or less, and the Overwhelm skill from your warp to your hand. So again, is this card single-handedly going to make Goku Xeno any good or meta-worthy? I don't know. I mean, black is obviously the worst color right now, so that's not really making a great case for it. What's really weird too is that like all this like Z deck support is going to these decks that don't like combo well naturally. So with that being the case, the Z deck is not going to be the most accessible thing. Yes, you can always just combo random cards from your hand in the early game to make this happen, but that's not always going to be a very advantageous position to put yourself in, so that's kind of weird in and of itself. Who knows if Goku Xeno is going to get more support out of the Anniversary Box, but this is the only card it's getting. I don't foresee it being like all that amazing, but hey, maybe it'll become the best black deck, which is not too high of a bar, to be honest. Then we have Toa, Unpredictable Offense, 1-drop 2k. We have Deflect, auto once per turn. If your leader is a Black Deborah Xeno, and I get instantly upset right there because that leader is terrible, when you activate swap, draw 1 card. So that's like the whole problem with the Deborah swap deck, is that your swaps all have costs of like making yourself bottom deck a card or something along those lines, which makes the swap mechanic very bad for card economy. And then you have this card that draws a card when you do it. It also costs an energy, so you're investing the energy you would have invested to swap into this card, and it has a 2Z energy cost. So it goes back to the same problem I was just talking about, where you're taking a deck that has very small hand size already, making it combo 2 cards to play this thing to hopefully start drawing some cards back. Like, I'd rather just not have invested the 2 cards into this anyway. Like, if you get what I'm saying, it's just a really weird thing design-wise. But active main limit 1. If your leader is a Black Demon Realm race card, you place 1 card from your hand to the bottom of your deck. Play up to 1 Evil Wizard or Demon Realm race card, both black with energy cost of 2 or less, and swap from your hand. Why do I have to place a card from my hand to the bottom of the deck to play something from my hand? This card, I don't think it's... I mean, I don't think there was much you could have printed to help Deborah Xeno, but this card is just not it, in my opinion. If I'm not seeing something here, I'm sure you'll let me know in the comments below, but yeah, this card does not seem like it's it to me. Then we have Hatchet Egg, Sand Exterminator. We have a 5-drop 25k critical. Permanent, if this card will be removed from a battle area, send it to the owner's warp instead. Activate main limit 2. If your leader is a Black Machine Mutant, the dark planet's in your battle area, and you choose 3 black battle cards with energy cost between 7 and 3 in your drop area and place them at the bottom of the deck in any order, play this card from your drop. Activate main once per turn for 2. If you have 4 or more energy, switch this card to active mode and play up to 1 Hatchet Egg Fueled by Hatred, which is the deck's boss monster, from your drop or warp on top of this card. So Hatchet Egg is one that I'm always like kind of scared about getting support, because if that deck becomes good, we're going to have a really annoying meta. But this card does seem okay. It is pretty cool. This can be played out of the drop for 2. You can go into the boss monster for another 2 energy. You get to swing for critical ones because the activate main or the second activate main will switch this back to active mode. But notice it puts a reliance on playing the actual Dark Planet field card, which most successful Hatchet Egg builds didn't actually play. So you have to play more of the actual Hatchet Egg engine for this card to be played in your deck. Is that worth it or not? I'm not a pro Hatchet Egg player by any means, so I'll defer that to you guys in the comments, or any other hardcore control players out there. Let us know if that's actually any good for Hatchet Egg, but it doesn't read terrible, I guess I'll say that. Then we have Massan Belligerent Warrior. We have a 7-drop 20k Deflect. Permanent, if your leader is black and you've sent a card from your drop to your warp this turn, so basically if you've overwhelmed, reduce energy cost of this card in your hand by 6. Auto limit 1. When this card's played, choose up 2 of your opponent's battle cards, send them to the owner's warps, and this card gains critical for the turn. At the end of your opponent's next turn, negate the skills of all cards sent to warps by this skill for the turn, and play them in their owner's battle area. So you get a 1-drop critical in Massan, which is all about critical. So this could be just as good as like your turn 1 Champa, but it also gives you board presence. And it temporarily removes things like blockers early on, which is kind of cool. The temporary removal is not always going to be great, but I mean, if you're putting a lot of pressure on your opponent very quickly, the temporary removal can almost be as good as straight up removal. Again, especially if it's like some random early game blockers that are getting in your way of doing that critical damage. So I think that Massan Reboot is like a fine deck. It's like very RNG dependent, very high roll if you're familiar with that term. Basically, if you're milling well, the deck will do well. If you're milling poorly, the deck is going to do poorly. But this card is a cool tool for the deck. I know my buddy Sawyer is going to be happy about this one. So, it seems alright for all intents and purposes. Maybe Massan will be a decent black aggro deck. Might be the best of the bunch, to be honest, after this wave of support, but time will tell on that. But anyways, guys, that's what we got for today. If you agree or disagree with any of my takes on these cards, let me know in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.